Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I had planned on doing a handful of cyberpunk movies that I grew up loving. I think yesterday I did Johnny Mnemonic and A Scanner Darkly, so they're down. And tonight I was initially going to do Hardware with Dylan McDermott, but I've decided to do Cyborg with Van Damme from the tail end of the 80s. It's like 1988 to 1990, somewhere in there. And again, like usual, you would assume that I would have checked this out, because considering that it takes all of like 20 seconds beforehand on the interweb, but of course not. I neglected to do that like usual. And the reason that I wanted to talk about Cyborg was because despite like how many lists I've seen from so many places that have compiled all of like the best and most prevalent and most important and their personal favorite, whoever it was that was writing a list, their favorite list of cyberpunk movies, I never see Cyborg starring Van Damme on any of these lists. And I find that really odd, because that movie, or this movie, it walks the line 110%. It's got the post-apocalyptic thing. It's got the high-tech low life with an actual cyborg that Van Damme has been tasked with protecting and delivering across the country, trying to keep her away from a group of raiders who are looking to take her and harvest her data, and so that they can have the cure for the plague that has pretty much wiped out most of humanity in this world. And so, like I said, that element of high tech and low life are at play. You've got sort of that heavy, foreboding sense of destruction everywhere that cyberpunk movies love to revel in. There's like an element of technological waste at play too. It's like the places they go to, they look like at some point they could have been technically proficient in some aspect, size, shape, or form. And of course, as the result of the world ending, they are no longer that way. This movie has Van Damme when he was in his prime. Bender as the bad guy, I mean, he's one of my favorite movie villains ever, because he's just so heartless. Like, he just genuinely does not give a fuck about anything except maintaining his status in this new world order where there's nothing left and everything has been completely ravaged and destroyed by the disease. And yet, like he says at the opening of the movie, that there's nothing wrong with this world, that I like this world, and he doesn't want that to change. So he is attempting to prevent the cyborg from being delivered to the scientists on the other side of the country so that they can work on a cure and figure it out and sort out humanity's problems. He wants the cure for himself because he's an asshole. And I mean, everything about this, I completely buy this movie. I know that throughout the course of time, this movie has sort of been picked on endlessly by people, and I never really understood that, because I always felt that this was, next to Hard Target, this was, what the hell is that? Oh, next to Hard Target, this is Van Damme's best movie. I know Lionheart was really good too, and so was Universal Soldier, and he did have a Sudden Death was good. Death Warrant was really good. Kickboxer was amazing. So he has had a number of really great movies, but I would say, technically speaking, or at least for me, this is his best movie. This movie used to freak me out when I was a kid. I believed the settings or the set design. If I'm not mistaken there too, the good people at Canon ended up recycling old Spider-Man sets from the movie once they had licensed the rights to Spider-Man, but for some reason the production never really got off the ground. And so they ended up repurposing a lot of those sets for Cyborg. Apparently, too, there's also like an ultimate director's cut of this movie. It's apparently a completely different film. It's a lot longer, there's a lot more story. And as of July 2022, I have yet to see this film, because the only place to get it is from the director's website, and he wants like 30 or 40 bucks for it. And I like the movie, I just don't like it that much. You know what I mean? This is I could see if it was a Criterion release, paying 40 to 50, 60 bucks for it. That does make a lot more sense. But this isn't a Criterion. This is probably never going to be a Criterion movie. In a lot of ways, that's kind of a shame too, because I feel like despite the fact that the movie is far from perfect, there's a lot of elements that came together perfectly to make this movie an incredibly entertaining and even at times meaningful watch. Because, I mean, he was originally protecting that family that he was living with, that Bender and his crew wiped out. And Bender took one of the girls, who was just a kid at that point, and she was raised with his pack of wolves. And so there's that sense of like the loss of a family, and how they crucify Van Damme up on like the what's left of some type of a ship or a boat in what is now a desert, which undoubtedly at some point in the past was some kind of body of water. And I really felt it when he was trying to kick his way off that, and when he landed on the ground, I actually felt that. I loved when he's doing the splits, which of course were kind of his thing, but when he does the splits in that underground place and the dude's walking underneath it and he's got the knife, and it's just so epic. Now I will argue this movie got to me when I was a kid, and movies that do kind of get in when you're young, you do always have a special place for the rest of your life. But this movie does have a lot more going for it. Jesus Christ, it's 6 minutes and 17 seconds. I've been rambling for 6 minutes, well, pushing 6.5 minutes at this point, about Cyborg starring Jean-Claude Van Damme from, I'm going to take a guess and say 1988, but I'm not 100% about that, so if I've got that wrong, I apologize. But I love this movie. This movie is scary. It has a story. Overall, I would say that its scope is really large. I loved how desolate all of the sets looked and all of the places that they chose to shoot the movie in. They were so completely torn apart, and they looked ravaged by war and disease, to the point where I believed everything was actually happening. And I loved how spacious everything was, and I loved how it was always raining and how shitty everything looked. In the end of the film, the big fight between him and Bender, it was so worthwhile. But yeah, so now it's 7 minutes, so I'm going to stop. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 7 minutes while I rambled on and on about what I consider to be Jean-Claude Van Damme's best movie, next to Hard Target, and that is Cyborg. If you like this review or discussion or whatever this was, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. I'm going to go. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button, because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.